it can be weaponized by the left or the right, as a phrase, as a term, as a theory. It can be weaponized by everybody and is weaponized by everybody.
So this is the Radio X Evening Show. It's George Godfrey with you. It is Monday night, and tonight a very special guest joins me because from the Manic Street Preachers, James Dean Bradfield's here. How you doing, man?
Yeah, not too bad, sir. Thank you very much. Thanks for having us on.
It's an absolute pleasure. How's your day been? Have you been looking after yourself?
I don't know about looking after myself. I've been pushing myself through the impossible. I went to the studio today and our desk is broken.
Oh no!
So me and Nick we just hang out and watch some TV and played some guitar. Nice. And just moaned about the world. So didn't get much done today.
Fair enough. Well, mate, we've got some really exciting news from you guys, and it comes in the form of a new album. So this is album number 14, the Ultra Vivid Lament. I mean, first up, where's that title from?
Any titles always come from Nick, but kind of the title really does sum up how our emotions perhaps have been heightened by this experience. I think you come to value the very simple things in life, but also you have a very deep sense of longing too. So you have very disparate emotions. Yeah. You have emotions that kind of contradict each other. You have emotions where you really value the simple things, but you really long and yearn for the larger experiences in life, whether it be a sunset, which you can't go and see anymore on the beach, whether it be traveling to a hotel that you particularly like in another country, or whether it be like going up a mountain in the valleys where I grew up. Yeah. Those things that used to seem so small are now so big. So I think the title for me lies between those two emotions. Learning how to value the things that perhaps you took for granted, but also missing out on those very vivid, large experiences that you always have around you, like going to the sea, going up a mountain, going to a different country, playing a concert. Yeah. You begin to realize that these experiences are not small, they're very big things.
Absolutely. I mean, you've summed up the past 18 months pretty well there. I mean, it's a feeling that I'm sure we can all relate to in our own ways. And I wanted to ask then, because you've referenced it there, that it's come from, this lockdown experience that we've been through. Did the majority of this album get its influence from that, or did some of these songs predate it?
Some of these songs predate it. Orwellian predates it. And then there are some other songs on there that predate it too. But I think culturally we were kind of starting to live in a car crash of a time anyway. Yeah. Before coronavirus. It felt as if there was no side that you could actually take. They felt as if that there were consequences to every argument, to every opinion, and it felt as if everybody was primed to actually destroy each other. So kind of a lot of the songs predate coronavirus on that level. Yeah. We were writing this album when I was doing my solo album. We're always doing something. But I think before coronavirus, I suppose what I'm trying to say is that we were already living through extraordinary times, just by the nature of the people that were leading us, I suppose.
Absolutely. I mean, you've already touched on it there. Orwellian is the first single from it, and it's the one that we're going to play in a second. And I just wanted to ask, what did you want to say with this one when you first put pen to paper? What was the message? I
suppose for me, the feel of the song, rather than the entire message of the song, the feel of the song says that it's okay to feel confused. It's okay to look out into the landscape of politics and culture and just laugh at it and just go, oh my God, what the hell is all of this? Because, Orwellian can be used to, it can be weaponized by the left or the right, as a phrase, as a term, as a theory. It can be weaponized by everybody and is weaponized by everybody. And so the bitter irony is, it becomes a good song because you just stand back and you go, oh my God, what a great big mess this all is. Perhaps this should turn into kind of, just a really bitter, tragicomic moment that we can try and turn into something which is a good song, which is, for us, is always half the enjoyment, to be honest.
Well, mission accomplished. Let's hear the song and then we'll talk a little bit more about it. This is new music from the Manic Street Preachers. James is on tonight. This is Orwellian on Radio X. So you talked a little bit about the song there and kind of the feel of it and how it's taking a step back and kind of laughing at this weird situation society that we're living in. And I think that's kind of reflected musically because, you've touched into a lot of different influences here. And one that you've referenced and one that I definitely hear is ABBA. And I didn't think I'd see the day where like a Manic's ABBA sort of crossover came about.
I mean, thank God it's arrived because I've been trying it for a long time and failed many, many, many times. One day there will be a box set where we'll show that we've failed to fold ABBA as an influence into our music in around about 1993 and 1996 and 97, and you get the picture. There's lots of failed missions in our past, but it finally came off. And look, most bands of my generation that you class broadly as guitar bands, most of us have a deep, deep admiration for ABBA, just because they're the masters at creating songs that seem to have a deeper level of meaning than any of us can ever understand. The kind of longing and melancholia that they seem to manifest in their music and manage to foist upon anybody that's listening to them is just magnificent. They always manage to make you happy and sad at the same time. That kind of melancholia, which we've always loved, is always in their music, and it's powerful. Really is, yeah. They're two of the best singers of all time. They're absolutely amazing. And as you can see from Nicky Wire, he's tried to rock their wardrobe many a time, kind of thing in the past. No, most guitar bands, lots of guitar bands are on record as saying that, nothing can touch the majesty of ABBA. It's just absolutely amazing.
Well, you've referenced there, you see yourself still as a guitar band, but a lot of this song and from what you've said, the rest of the album was started on the piano. And is that like a first for you to start a song there for like a whole record?
This piano behind me, Margaret. This is
the one.
This is her. Well, that was something that came about in lockdown. I'd already started trying to get better on the piano before lockdown. Just because I wanted to find a different way of writing songs, and I wanted to see if the chords I'd known since I was 15 years old, since I've been learning how to play the guitar, I wanted to see if there was anything new in those old chords. I wanted to see if there was something new I could find in old ways of doing things. Just reinterpreting the things that I know. And so the process of kind of trying to get better at piano really intensified during lockdown. And already some of the songs have been written on piano, but it really started in earnest in lockdown. And I know I'm no Richard Clayderman. I'm no Rachmaninoff, thank God. I think I'm turning into quite a good saloon player, like a barroom saloon player. I can knock out a couple of tunes, kind of thing. But it's really nice to write on because you can kind of you can see that the chords that you've been playing on guitar for most of your adult life have a bit more complexity in them, and there's still new things to find out in old chords. So it did really influence the record, yeah.
It sounds like you had a productive lockdown then, because you took that time and sat down and thought, I'm going to better this skill. So let's use this time creatively.
Oh, there were a lot of failed missions in lockdown. Kind of some I won't tell you about, but kind of trying to get kind of really fit again. I'm not quite sure where that landed.
Well, you're looking well.
Hopefully my core is back, but it doesn't look that way when I look in the mirror, I must say. My pizza bases are still absolutely shaped like the most awful drunken abstract clouds you could ever see. And I'm always experimenting with, which recipe is better for a pizza base. I gave up on sourdough bread a long time ago. I got fed up with the cult of sourdough bread and people treating a fungus in their fridge like a friend, kind of thing. So there were some things that failed.
Well, I mean, you mentioned fitness there, and we should talk about, getting back to touring fit, because there's going to be some live shows on the horizon, right?
Hopefully. I mean, I think we're all kind of really wrapped up in superstition now. If any of us say, yeah, a gig's going to happen, we all get superstitious and we all think, oh, don't curse it. So I think that's where we are with it. Yes, we've got some dates lined up. We've got some dates booked in. But we've had so many dates cancelled, in the last year and a half or so. And if it gets to, if we get to October and we still haven't played a live date, that'll be 2 years without us playing a gig, which is, I never thought I'd say that. I've been playing gigs since I was 15 years old, been singing with a choir since I was 9.
Yeah. So
I've always kind of been doing something on stage. And I'm 52 now. So it's going to be like, if we get to the latter part of this year and gigs have been cancelled again, that's going to be, I'm going to be having serious withdrawal symptoms. I think I've really missed the sporting aspect of playing gigs, the physicality of it. Because when you play in front of Nick and Sean, it's kind of like a fight. They really are aggressive, like musicians, and you've got to fight back against them, kind of thing. And I miss that about playing with Nick and Sean. I miss, kind of the drunken energy of our crowd. They're just brilliant. Our audience are just they always give so much, kinetic energy to us, and it's always on the edge of almost spilling over. And I like that about a gig. So I've missed the sporting element of doing gigs, and I hope to anything that some of the gigs that we've got planned now will happen, yes.
Yeah, we've got everything crossed. I mean, it's been a unique year, I guess, for music across the board. And one thing that I've been talking about on this show has been the way that it's impacted those newer musicians, I guess, and the ones that are at the start of their career. Because not only have you had the year that you've had and that's taken live shows away, but there's all this news that came with Brexit and the no-deal Brexit, and the way that to play abroad, you're going to need all these permits and these forms to fill out, and it's going to rocket the expense of that. And I wanted to just ask where you stand on it all, because, as a more established band, it might impact you in a way that you can handle a bit more than a starting out band.
Well, number one, it's harder for me to have an opinion on how hard it is for younger bands now, because I've been incredibly lucky to play gigs since I was, like I said, our first gig is when I was 16. And yeah, we've had the experience of having to get visas to play in different countries around the world. But like when you're talking about, obviously, mainland Europe, it's always been pretty simple. Places like Czechoslovakia, which became Czech Republic, opened up, et cetera, et cetera. That kind of changed when we were on our first couple of albums. But you'd be right in saying that the hurdles that bands have to jump through now to go and play places like France and Spain, Belgium, etc., all the places that I've played all my adult life, it's going to be much harder for young bands. And then when you fold back into that, venues closing down, people perhaps being a bit too nervous to go to gigs, ticket prices going up because of the added COVID security that's going to be at gigs. I'll stop right there because it's all sounding grim, isn't it? It's much, I really have as much empathy as I possibly can for younger bands that feel as if they had no momentum and then it all stopped for them.
Of course.
Because it's something which should be quite simple, going on the road, not getting much money for playing live anyway, but just feeling as if you've communicated with 10 people at one gig, that's enough. That's what kept us going at the start.
Yeah.
We'd be in a van, we'd be traveling from the valleys in Wales up to Stoke or up to Glasgow. And if we felt as if there were 20 people that night that really enjoyed us, that kept us going. That was enough. So bands don't really ask for much sometimes. They just ask for that magic moment where they know that the next time they go back to that place, those people that they connected with last time will come back and perhaps they'll bring a friend with them.
Yeah, exactly.
And just that real kind of deep thing of just knowing that somebody has understood the way your band look, sound and feel is really important to a young band. So it's not as if bands ask for much, bands don't get much money at that level, do they? And they're driving themselves and they're eating questionable food, on the journey back there and back, and changing tires when the van is broken down. It's a pretty hard existence anyway, but at least it's fun. At least it was fun. Now this is kind of pose an even bigger challenge to something which was kind of difficult, but fun. So that's what really, I suppose, is upsetting, you know, but I can imagine why bands would give up now. But hopefully that rock and roll element, that fun rock and roll element can come back, where what you know, you're doing something which won't give you much money, but you'll get experience from it and you'll learn something from it and you will connect with people. Hopefully that'll come back for bands, because that's the most important things a band miss. That's the things that kept us going at the time. Certainly wasn't the money, you know, it was that kinetic kind of like chance, you know, kind of like a coincidence of just touching somebody else in the audience with your songs, and then knowing that perhaps you might establish, you know, a relationship with them over the course of albums.
I think for me as well, one of the things that, you know, so many bands potentially will miss out on is, of course, the excitement that comes with playing in another country for the first time. It's taking it, you know, you might be well known on your local patch, but when you go to France for the first time, that's a whole different ball game. And I wanted to ask, what was that experience like for the Manics the first time that you played abroad?
To be honest, I mean, I'd barely been out of Wales when I was young. So, you know, playing in Manchester, playing in London, playing in Stoke, playing in Edinburgh, Glasgow, for me was a real buzz, because I felt like I was in a different country half the time. I just did. And when I went to France for the first time, I was just absolutely lost, much more, and just I had no expectations, just fear, and I kind of liked that. It was kind of like watching your team, or you know, playing in a rugby match, or just like, you know, doing cross country, or just anything which is remotely scary. The kind of fear drives you on a bit. So I remember when we played France the first time with lots of other bands from the Heavenly record label. It was amazing, but it wasn't easy. It was scary because no one was there to see us. No one really had any expectations of us. So yeah, it was a very vivid moment. But like I said, you know, playing in Manchester and Glasgow for the first time, you know, was for us, that was just as much of a buzz, I gotta say, because we were like, you know, kind of, wake up, mothers, we're here. We've come all the way from the valleys of Wales and we're here, you know, kind of thing. We weren't shy about it.
Oh, that's the best way to be. I mean, you got to wrestle for people's attention sometimes at those shows.
Yeah, bravado can take you a long way sometimes.
So it's George here with you. This is the Radio X Evening Show, and tonight James Dean Bradfield from the Manic Street Preachers is here. We've got brand new music tonight. Orwellian is the single, and of course, album 14 is on the way, the Ultra Vivid Lament. Now, James, I'm going to let you go soon, but we've got a little tradition on the show where we talk about gig memorabilia. Now, this could be something that you've kept hold of over the years, either from one of your own shows or from a show that you've been to as a punter watching one of your favourite bands. So last week we had Justin from The Vaccines. He's got a fake $100 bill from A$AP Rocky, which he shot out into the audience through a cannon. Andy from Doves has one of Mike Joyce's drumsticks from an early Smiths gig. Is there anything that you can add to the collection?
Yes. My first gig in 1986, I believe. Okay. If it was 85, excuse me, fact checkers. It was Echo and the Bunnymen on the Ocean Rain tour, playing in Bristol. And myself, Sean, and Richie, and a friend of ours called Rowan came with us. And so it was all our first gig ever. And we were there for sound check. We were listening at the stage doors at the sound check. And then we wait for them to come out to go to the pub. Will, Les, Pete, and Ian. And we got all their signatures.
Nice.
So all their signatures from my first proper gig is definitely one of my most special bits of gig memorabilia. And the program, my first ever gig program from that gig, because the program from that gig was amazing. All the pictures were by Anton Corbijn, and they were just amazing. It was more like a catalogue for kind of for a portrait sale in an art gallery in Kensington or something. Yeah. You know, it was so tastefully done, and I just looked at it. So yeah, those two things from my first gig: the program from Echo and the Bunnymen gig in Bristol on the Ocean Rain tour in 1986, and all their signatures.
Very nice. Is it framed somewhere? Have you got it safe?
No. It's tucked away. It's wrapped. It's wrapped in plastic and it's wrapped in bubble wrap, and it's checked for moth infestation once every year.
Very nice. James, thanks so much for coming on the show tonight. Really appreciate your time, and I can't wait to hear more of this album. I really can't.
Oh, cheers, Jeff. Thanks very much. Thank you.
Nice one.
Radio X.